Hello, welcome to tonight's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Tonight we have horror host Jim Childs from out in Sin City. Am I correct? Yes.
Yep.
Tell us about yourself, Jim.
Okay, so what I do is I host horror movies, also sci-fi, fantasy, and I host the Sicko-Psychotic's Super Shock Show, and along with other creepy characters. And what we do is insert a lot of comedy skits in between where the commercial breaks come on. And that's pretty much the gist of it. And it's pretty much what you do with your Saturday morning cartoon shows as Captain Cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah. Not at all planned. It's just that's what they've named me, and that's why I guess I'm going with it.
That's an awesome title. Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny because this all started. My whole show started because of our local horror host was a guy named Dr. Creep. Dr. Creep, I ended up meeting him because his producer was working at the TV station where I was doing this show essentially as a public access show, and I got to meet one of my heroes. And then I started meeting this other group of people, and now I've met all these horror hosts from locally, and they're all like, "Man, do it, man! If you want to do it, do a show." And I'm like, I don't know. There's so many better people than I am out there. So, and they're like, run with what you know. And I'm like, well, I really know cartoons. And I was like, but how do you know what you can air and what you can't air? He goes, the only thing they can do is tell you to take it down. So I'm like, I was like, okay. So, and it's funny. That's what people ask. They're like, how do you get away with showing these cartoons? I'm like, they've never asked me to take them down. I don't make any money off of them, but they've never asked me to take them down. I've done 53 episodes, and 3 times have been asked to take a cartoon down. And that's just, they won't even let it air. They just like, okay, you can't do this one. So I trim it, put it back up, and it'd be fine. So, but I was going to, like I said, was going to do a horror hosting, but like I said, there's a lot of them, a lot of good ones out there. And I even came up with my name and my whole gimmick. And then that kind of just got put on the side, and then now Captain Cartoon is out. So it's like,
what was your angle, your host angle going to be?
I was going to be Dr. Edgar Shelley Lovecraft, PhD, not MD.
Okay.
So I was gonna wear the glasses and like the tweed jackets and stuff like that. Have all these because I have all these old like books floating around my lair down here, and so I was going to have all these old books, and I got books on like witchcraft, but just everywhere, so it looked like it. And that was going to be the whole gimmick, was that because everybody was a doctor. It's always a
lot of doctors, a lot of barons.
Yeah, I talked to Dr. Dredd. I talked to Dr. And I'm like, man, I was like, I don't want to be that, but I kind of like the whole concept of not MD, PhD. So, but yeah, that's how this all started. What?
You have a good thing going with your Saturday morning cartoons. I was looking at the numbers. Man, you've got a lot of watchers, and like you said, you've done 50. And to get those many numbers so quickly, my God. So whatever you're doing, and keep it up, because you're reaching people.
Yeah, it was funny because the other day I said, hey, shout out where you're at. And I got like New Zealand, and I got Norway. And I'm like, why are you watching me host cartoons? I'm like, but they're like, I had a guy, and I felt weird, but he wrote me this like kind of heartfelt message the other day, and it was, I want to thank you for giving my grandchildren something that I had as a child. And I'm like, he goes, you don't understand how much I appreciate this. And I'm like, I just wanted to bring back something that I missed, and to know that I'm like like reaching out to people, and I'm like, that's cool. I feel cool, but I feel weird too. So, but yeah,
I think one of the appeals from watching your show was you're just us. We wake up in the morning, we're just like tuning into something, and we're just hanging out, and it's like, oh wow, like I remember this, and or maybe I've never seen that cartoon, and I'm like, when did this come out, and you know, that whole exploration, and but it's you're us, you're connecting with us because yeah, we're you, you're us, and
oh yeah,
sometimes that's all it all it takes. It's just
it,
you know that the similar uh, interests
oh yeah.
and simplicity of things. Yeah.
Yeah, what's funny is that, like I said, I never intended it to be kind of what it is. My original goal was I was going to set it up so that I had the camera and I was going to be aiming towards me instead of the TV, and I was going to sit there and look like I'm eating my bowl of cereal and stuff like that. And then I had my buddies like, man, you should really like, tell little tidbits about the cartoons and about the 80s and about toys and stuff like that on the side. And I'm like, okay. And then I just kind of kept that going. And it's funny because like when you get into some of these shows that, like I'm running Kissy Fur now, which is like, I think the longest one I've ran is like, I think it's like 17 episodes. I'm like, I don't know what else to say about this cartoon. So literally during like what I call it, like commercial breaks, I'm reading a comic book or reading a book or talking about something, and I'm like, all right, well, this is what we're going to do today, I guess. So, I don't know. How do you work with a group of people, correct, on your show?
Not anymore. I used to.
Okay.
And the original concept of the show, I had a revolving door where a lot of people would come at different times and we shoot different things. Different people would do camera, different people would do the puppeteering or play characters. But I no longer film there and I moved. So I have this tiny little spot now where my kitchen table really should be. That's it. That's what I got to work with now. And so it's just me now doing everything. I used to have somebody voicing Silky Harlot. She's actually right here. Sicko's pet venomous snake. And now I do her voice as well. So I do everything just about. I think the only person that's still around is Mr. Nasty, the character Mr. Nasty, the person that plays him.
Yeah. It's funny because I either with talking to these horror hosts, you either get the ones who have they have writers and directors and stuff like that. They have a full crew, or you have like you and Sally, just one person working in like one little room, and that's what I do here. Is people ask me like, oh man, I like your set. So I'm like, literally this. If you were to turn the camera this way, you would see where I film the the other show. This is my basement lair. This is actually where I spend 90% of my day at home. So this is, but like you said, where your kitchen table should be. This is my dining table. That's where I film.
Yeah, I hear that. And you own a comic book store too, right?
Yes, I do.
I haven't had a chance to click on the link to try, explore your website yet, but that is freaking awesome. How is that?
It's fun. I've been doing comic book business. I started working my first store at 15. I'll be 48 in June. So I've been doing this for 33 years. But I've also been a collector my entire life. I don't remember not collecting comic books. Literally, like my grandparents bought me Star Wars when I was, 3, and it's just been ever since. But yeah, I've been doing this shop. It's going to hit its in June or July. It'll be 10 years for this shop. I made it through the pandemic. Actually, outside of being closed for 2.5 months thereabout, best year I'd ever had. That's like, I do that. I run the shop every day except for Sundays and Thursdays. I do 3 shows a week. My son is with me most of the time. I'm happily married, got 4 kids, but 3 of them are adults. So, I'm a busy guy that likes to stay busy. I don't.
Look at the animals. You got like pets in the background, right?
Yeah, that's the black and white cat is my cat Maze. My wife's dog is Abby. She's right here. She's always at my feet when I'm recording.
Nice.
The other cat is over there. That's Lucy. And then my dog is upstairs with my wife, and that's Lulu, our corgi. So
Wow. When I filmed the old show, I actually had 4 dogs and 2 cats, and I thought that was crazy. But it's not like I sought them out. I just they came to me. Especially the last one. I was just watering the front yard, and I hear this woof woof woof, and I'm like, "Where the hell did you come from?" And it looked very healthy, and I thought, well, it just must live around the neighborhood here. So I took it around and see if it could find its own home, but it kept leading me back to my house. And I posted ads everywhere for, found dog, and no one ever claimed the dog. So it ended up being mine. But that's been the scenario a lot of times.
Yeah, we ended up with my wife's dog down here, Abby, because all of our dogs, we'd had dogs for years. They had all passed away. And my wife we had one still at that point. And she's like, well, she goes, I think she needs a friend. I think she needs a friend. I think that'll help her. And I'm like, oh, I don't want another dog right now. My dog had just gone and passed away. And my dog was my dog. He was blind, and I was a CNI person. So I would take him. He would walk between my legs everywhere I went. And so we ended up with this one. And she was from an oops litter. They thought their dog got fixed, but when they went to go fix it, they found out it was already pregnant. So we ended up with that one. And then mine upstairs was my mom had gotten a corgi. The lady she got her off of goes, well, our older dog's getting ready to retire. Do you know anybody that would want a corgi? And my mom's like, yeah, I know somebody would want one. And now we have Lulu, which was Lucy, but we already had a Lucy in the house, so she got her name changed a little bit. And she's mine and my son's dog, but she's everybody's dog. She's super lovable. That dog took to us like that. Like, she's instantly like, boom, on our laps. She kept wanting to sleep on our beds. I'm like, no. You sleep on your bed on the floor. And the only thing is, she's getting fat now. My wife's yelling at me. She goes, you can't let her get fat. I'm like, I'm not letting her do anything. She's just getting fat. But that's people ask that all the time. They're like, well, I see all these pets. I'm like, okay. So I listed all my animals. I even put them in the credits one time. They're like, dogs, cats.
I should do that since I don't have a crew anymore.
Every crew I put on my show is either an alias I had in the past or a completely made up name that I've come up with. Because I worked at a video store and I managed a hotel. So when people would call and I would just give fake names so that they could, because I didn't want people to know my actual name.
Yeah.
Because then it got kind of bad there for a while. It was people would run into me because their videos were late, and I'd be at the theater, like in the movies. Some guy grabbed me by the shoulder, spun me around. He goes, my movies weren't late. I'm like, dude, I don't care. I'm not at work. You need to go away now.
Wow.
Yeah, I can.
Do you live in a community or?
Do what?
Do you live in a small community or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a town of about 25,000. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I was the I was the video store guy. I was the hotel guy. That's what everybody remembers me. Now I'm the video game comic book guy, and that's how everybody, you know. So I'm like, okay, it's just my. I keep telling my wife that our little small town is called Piqua, and I tell my wife I'm Piqua famous because everybody in town knows me. I was like, but I don't know anybody's name. People come up to me and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Oh yeah, you're great. Hey. And my wife goes, well, why didn't you introduce me to those people? I was like, I don't know who they are. I don't, no
How
clue.
does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's
How does it make you feel?
how does that feel? It's a little awkward sometimes because, like I said, a lot of people know me just because I've been in town. I was the guy that did the conventions. They come in the store, um, and I don't think people really know. You know, I see a lot of people every day, every week. Everything,
Hmm.
and I try to be, always try to be pleasant and everything else like that because I don't want to, but when people confront me like when I worked at the video store, I would be like, like that and be like, mm. One is you don't mess with me around my family. I don't like that. Um, and now I just got people come up to me and they're like, hey, I got some magic cards I got to bring in your shop. I'm like, cool, I'll see you Saturday. Okay. That's you're like, oh, I got some comic books I need to sell you. Okay. But that
Yeah,
now,
that
um, I told my wife we went to Horror Hound a few weeks ago in Cincinnati, and I got recognized for the show, and that's the first time I got recognized outside of my little area for the show, and I was like, that's weird. I'm cool with it, but it's still I'm like I'm not used to so, but it mm.
I'm kind of a shy person, so I think I would be a little um, stunned by it. I've had it happen before, not as the character that I play now, but from a play that I did a long time ago, and it was a musical. It was Beauty and the Beast, and not the Disney version. This was more based on the old literature versions, and I played her twin brother, where she was Beauty. I was like the goon boy, the one everyone picked on, all her siblings, and I had a magic dove that would warn me when Beauty was in danger, and I had this song and dance number. And well, after the show closed, I early in the morning I woke up and I ran out of cat food and I had to feed my cat. So I was like still in pajamas and slippers, and I put a baseball cap on. I'm like, I need to run up to the corner store and grab some cat food real quick. But I looked like a total mess. And I was like, no, it's early in the morning. Hardly anyone's going to be there. No one's even going to care or notice you because you're, not that they would notice me from the show, but just,
Yeah.
the way I was dressed. And it's like no one's going to pay attention to you. Everybody's doing their own thing, and it's like you're just going to blend in and grab your stuff and get out. So I do that, and I get to the counter, and the lady at the register just goes, "Oh my God, you're that guy with the little magic bird singing and dancing, and that was the first play I've ever seen." And and I'm just like, "What?" I was like so horrified. And she's like, "Can I have your autograph?" And I'm just like, yeah. And I look over to the rest of the people in the line, and they're all looking at me like, is he somebody? Like,
Is he famous?
my
Oh,
worst nightmare came true, and I went home, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to make a little effort to dress up, even if to check the mail. I can't. I was so embarrassed.
my wife is the same way because I will get up even if I don't have work, whatever. I get up, I get a shower, I get fully dressed before I leave the house. I have never left my house wearing my pajamas. I've never left my house without taking it. Well, I take it back. I've left my house like to run to my shop because like the electrician's showing up. But like, I go over there, I let the electrician in, then I go home.
Yeah.
Well, it's this is bad. Is years and years ago, I used to always get, "Hey, aren't you that guy in that band?" or something like that. Because at one point I had really long hair. I always had, I've had a beard, and I was always like a heavy metal looking guy. But I always got people thought I was in a band, and I'm literally had this guy would not leave me alone, and he's like, "Man, you can tell me," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm not who you think you are, who you think I am," and he's like, "No, you're in," and it was always different band. It was almost never the same band, and I literally one was somebody goes, "Oh, you look like the guy from the band Mudvayne." So I met the guy from Mudvayne. So there's a picture of us both together, like we don't look nothing alike. When I was years ago, I used to go to a lot of anime conventions, and I used to have Japanese kids always want to get their picture taken with me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I know I'm like I said, I had the long hair, had the beard, always wore a leather jacket and stuff like that. And finally, I'm like, after like 4 conventions of getting these kids, and I'm like, I'd take a picture with them. I'm like, all right, okay. And finally, I was like, who do you think I am? And they were like, you're Masuda. And I'm like, who? And I've come to find out it was a wrestler in Japan. And it was a American guy who had long hair, had the beard like I did, wore the leather jacket, but he was and a few years back, I met him at a wrestling event, and I was like, man, I got to tell you this because I think this is funny. And he's like, what? He goes, I was like, man, I'd go to anime conventions and stuff like that. And I always had these Japanese kids come up and want their picture taken with me. Finally, I asked them who they thought I was. They thought I was you. And he goes, yeah, he goes, don't take offense to that. And he goes, why? He goes, you know how, a lot of people think that all Asian people look the same. And I was like, yeah. He goes, a lot of Asian people think all white people look the same. He goes, so you just kind of look like me. So I'm like, oh, that's weird and kind of stereotypical, I guess. But it was a little like that. Okay, I guess that makes sense because I've never been to Japan. I would never, at that point, there was no chance I'd ever even been on TV in Japan. But they thought I was the wrestler, and I was like, oh, okay. As soon as when I figured out who they thought I was, I'd start asking them. I was like, dude, and they're like, yeah, and I was like, nah, it's not me. It's not me. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man. So as we keep talking about, so how long have you been doing the horror hosting thing?
I began the show in 2016, and the original show, and just last year I rebooted the show, so it's now the Sicko-Psychotic Super Shock Show.
So has your character always been the same, or has he morphed? Has he started out as something completely different and morphed into what he is now?
No, he's still the same character. I think he always will be. I don't think you can play him any other way. Yeah.
It's funny because I either get one that they're like, my character was almost emerged fully formed out of my imagination, and a couple other ones are like, yeah, it just evolved and became what it is now. And I'm like, it's really interesting because because Elvira, you've always seen Elvira. Elvira's always been Elvira, and I would love to interview her one time just to find out if there was ever a proto Elvira, like there was something before there was Elvira, But
the only thing about Elvira that's changed is the height of her hair. It used to be up here. And then at one point it was down here, and then it came back up again. And that's it.
I always joke around because me and my wife finally got to meet her I don't know, about 10 years ago. And I was a little disappointed because she was Cassandra. And I was like,
Oh.
oh man, I wanted to meet Elvira. And Tina's like, you know, she's the same person, right? I'm like, I know, but it's not the same.
I
But
know
she
what you mean.
signs everything Elvira anyways, so but it was still pretty cool.
I've actually met her in full costume, but to be honest with you, she doesn't act like Elvira in full costume. She acts like Cassandra, dressed as Elvira.
she,
So,
she's just cosplaying her right now. Don't worry about it. The real Elvira shows up later. That's what you're gonna find out. That's why she still looks exactly the same as Cassandra Peterson is the fake made up person. she's just the decoy. She's because shoot, I was when her movie came out, I was in I think junior high or something like that. It wasn't until a couple years later before I realized that the mother that gives her away in the beginning of the movie was actually just her without all the makeup. And I was like, wow, I was stupid when I was a kid.
Was that your first experience with Elvira, or did you actually see her show before that?
I had seen her show kind of because we didn't have her on TV locally, but the video store I used to go to had her VHS tapes of her
The
episodes.
Thriller video
Yeah.
brand, yeah.
Yep. And I rented all those when I was a kid. And then she started popping up in like the I want to say beer commercials. And then she got her movie, and then she got on like regular TV around here, and they were showing repeats of her old stuff from out in California. And then, you know, by then she was Elvira and everybody knew she was. But yeah, no, like I said, I grew up with Dr. Creep, and he was our Saturday morning guy. And then eventually he became my lead-in for my old show. We had Shock Theater at 10 o'clock, and then I came on at midnight.
Wow. That must have been awesome.
Yeah, for a kid that grew up on that stuff, it was really fun.
Yeah.
And then when, like I said, his producer worked at the TV station, and I went in one day to work on my show, and he was in there. And I was going to go in and do some editing. That's back when you had VHS tapes and you were editing on the board and everything. And I was supposed to be in there, and I sat in there for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 hours. And all I did was talked to the two of them and didn't do one bit of work.
Of course. This was an opportunity. You couldn't miss that. Yeah.
That's one of the things with doing this show is I've learned that when I talk to a lot of horror hosts, I tend to lose track of time. We then not talk about anything that I began to talk about. We will circle back around, and I'll get pieces of it. But I used to keep a notebook, which I do keep my Saturday morning notebook here, but my old notebook was full of questions. And then I just realized I never used it. So my kid ended up using it. So it's around here somewhere. Okay. Here's one I always do. Okay. Money is no option. What movie are you putting on your show?
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I know it's not the Halloween, it's not Halloween, but that movie is funny as hell. Like, there's so much you could do with that. And I did grow up watching Elvira, so that was one that I used to watch constantly every time she showed it and in reruns. So I love the movie. I tried watching it without a host, and it's not exactly the same experience. You I think you really need the host in there, and I think I would have so much fun with that. I've already done a couple little mentions or tributes to Attack of the Killer Tomatoes for our first Halloween special, Silky Harlot was dressed as a couple of killer tomatoes. So that was my nod. Also, I did a skit where Sicko gets tomatoes thrown at him. That was a recent episode, or not too long ago. So yeah, I don't know. That would just be a fun movie to really host. So
Yeah.
I think a lot more than it would be for Halloween, because Halloween you'd be like all serious about it.
Well, it's funny because I don't think I don't think the first person I've asked has ever said like Halloween or Friday the 13th. It's always been, you know, Plan 9 from Outer Space, or, you know, but a lot of those are in public domain. Well, some of them are in public domain. I don't know if Plan 9 is anymore. But yeah, it's everybody has is that your go-to movie? Is that like your that's your other question? What's your go-to movie? The one that you watch at any time?
My go-to movie is not a horror movie. It's Ellen Parker's Bugsy Malone. Are you familiar with that one? It's the one with the little kids play adults.
Scott Baio and Jodie Foster. Yes.
Jodie Foster and the gun shoot pie.
I had forgot that existed till like 2 years ago, and literally it was when the quarantine was going on. I was at my shop cleaning one day doing work, and I think it was on YouTube, and I found it, and I'm like, I forgot this was a thing. Oh my God. I had to watch it, and I'm like, somebody thought this was a brilliant idea. Somebody really did. And all those kids were hot at that time. They were like the big kid actors at that time too. So
they were talented.
Yeah. Because that was
for some reason though, it's never gotten a proper DVD release here. So I don't know what's up with that. And the music is by Paul Williams, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah, that might be the problem with it. Is come down to Paul Williams may not sign the musical rights away. That tends to be why movies don't get released on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever you want to say now. But a lot of it comes down to movie right or music rights. So I know a couple of TV shows I want to see come out like legitimately on DVD, and a couple movies will never see the light of day because of music. So
yeah.
So all right, here's the other one I always ask everybody. Money's no object. Who are you bringing on your show? You can have any actor, past, present, future. Past, present. Time. What was it? Yeah, money and time is not an object. Or you can bring anybody from the past, or you can anybody from the present.
How many people can I bring on? I don't know. Phyllis Diller. I don't think they'd be able to tell she and Sicko apart, but no, in all seriousness, she's amazing. She was amazing comedian, and she was very monster friendly, and she was on Mad Monster Party. And yeah, they didn't even bother to turn her character into a monster. They just made the figurine look like her. And what I really love about her is how she makes fun of herself.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I think it's so easy to pick on other people and make fun of them, but to make fun of yourself and draw from those insecurities and vulnerabilities that you have is real comedy for me.
Oh yeah, it's really she was almost a Americanized British comedy, because the Brits can totally make fun of themselves, and that's their whole thing, is deprivating horror comedy. And that's what was bad is that my introduction to Phyllis Diller was Scooby-Doo and Mad Monster Party.
That's right.
And it wasn't until I got a little bit older, and then I found like I was like on HBO or Showtime, like real late at night, one of her comedy shows, And I remember because it was old, it was even an older one when I was a kid. So it was probably one from the late 70s. And I watched it, I laughed my butt off. And she was, oh man, she was funny up and like to the end. I mean, she was still, they were bringing her on TV shows and she was still poking fun at herself and other people. And oh, it was great. Yeah. Sorry. Little cotton mouth. My big iced tea cup. That's right. Seriously, what channels are you on? Are you just on? Where can people watch you, I should say?
Okay, so the show airs in on WBXZ TV in Buffalo, New York, and the other place that it airs on is the Monster Channel, and also their Roku channel, the Eerie Late Night Horror Channel on Roku. I have not distributed in other places just yet. I would like to eventually have it air here locally. That would be kind of a nice concept since I film here, but but I kind of want to have more episodes in the can before I do that. My biggest thing is that it takes so long to make these episodes because it's all blue screen and the characters and I put a lot of work into these episodes. It takes a very long time to make them, and I'm afraid that once I commit to something locally, they'll want them like every week, and I'm just like, what? Maybe if I appeared in one state, you know, the pressure would be on, and knowing that you don't get paid and you're, you know, it's like, it's not going to happen. I kind of like enjoying doing it when I have the opportunity to do it and at my leisure. Having a deadline is just, and I've had deadlines for like the Halloween specials, and it's a killer. It is so stressful. It takes a lot of the fun, and you don't really get to enjoy the show even after when it airs because you're still busy contacting other people that are like in the past, like this past Halloween episode. For the first time, I had other horror hosts appear on my show, and then I also had, it was a music marathon, a 4-hour music marathon, and then so I was constantly keeping in touch with them and communicating when the show was going to air here and there, and also the musicians. And honestly, that kept going till like way after the show was over, like until mid-November. And then I was able to relax. And that was insane. It's like, I don't know if I dig this. I'm glad I did it once, but that's it. That's why it's called a special. You know.
Well, I was planning a Halloween special and a Christmas special for last year. And I was going to do like the Halloween episodes of cartoons and the Christmas episodes of cartoons. And then I'm trying to find the cartoons and I'm like, okay, I can't air that one. I can't air that one. Oh, wow. Like every Christmas and Halloween episode of every show is literally not going to get past the YouTube or the YouTube. So I'm like, okay, I found a couple. This is going to work. I'm planning on something for Halloween this year. So the backdrop might be Halloween-esque, but that might be about the only thing. There might be a pumpkin with a candle in it or something like that, because I go all out when I do my set, as you can tell. I talked to other hosts and stuff because you put a lot into your character. And they said what was the one thing that they would change about if they did their characters, said less grease paint and less makeup, man. Just something I could just go out there and maybe throw a hat on or something like that. I'm like, that's what I do. Throw a hat on and a bathrobe, and it looks like it's still in the morning. That's my character.
Yeah, putting all that makeup on is no joke. It makes you a little reluctant to jump right in, and yeah, the harder you make it on yourself, the more you procrastinate. So you don't, yeah. Because it was interesting. I was watching your interview with Sally the zombie cheerleader,
Mhm.
and I believe she said it took her an hour to put on the makeup. An hour? 1 hour?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It takes me 2 hours to do mine. I like. I would love an hour. I would love an hour. Oh man, but I still wouldn't change it because I just love the look of the character, and I mean it's just perfect for the character.
Now,
But it is a bitch. I'm not gonna get you. The least favorite part of the whole horror hosting thing is putting that makeup on.
who's your inspiration to become a horror host?
Not a person.
Not a person.
Not a person. So what it was a bunch of uh, things that I enjoyed that kind of merged all together. So at the time, I was in high school when I thought about when I created Sicko, and I was watching Freddy's Nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
He was an influence
Yeah.
because he would host his own episodes for that
Yeah.
show. And then I was also watching Tales from the Dark Side, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
And they told stories and each one. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have like a Freddy Krueger character or a host if I played a host and did a show very much like Tales from the Dark Side, where it's a different story. And I think a lot why that interested me was because I grew up reading horror hosted comic books.
Tales from the
So
Crypt and all that stuff. Yep.
yeah, and the Charlton comics, they always had different horror hosts on there. DC Comics had Cain and Abel,
Yep.
and
House of
so
Mystery.
yeah. And so that was a big inspiration. And then the other thing, the actual image of Sicko is during that time, I had a bad dream in which this ghoul thing came out of a coffin. And I was like, I'm gonna make fun of that. I'm like, I'm gonna play this character and just make it creepy but funny and have bad things happen to him, like end up with the pie in the face. So that's what I wanted to do. And then Tales from the Dark Side came out, and so I was like, well, I don't want to copy that. Like that's pretty much was my concept, with the Crypt Keeper kind of thing, and yeah. But I saved the character because I knew that someday I wanted to play this character. So then we entered this era where we can do whatever we want. We can make our own films, TV shows, whatever. Nothing's holding us back anymore.
No.
So we don't have to wait to be picked up. So yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot what the question was.
What was your inspiration for your character?
So that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And there's more. There's more. There's other sources that I drew from. Do you remember Dynamite magazine?
Yeah.
They have that. Okay. Hey, so in school they had that Scholastic form where you order books and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Dynamite magazine was one of the things I had to order every time. And in the back pages they had Count Morbida, that
Mm-hmm.
vampire, and he had like these puzzle pages, and he was always trying to get rid of us pesky kids and brats and stomp us with these puzzles. And I remember as a kid being determined to solve these puzzles to prove that I could be a monster friend. And yeah, I had quite a bit of an imagination back then.
Oh yeah.
But I based that. I really love that because most of the time, like kid stuff, they were trying to teach you a lesson and how to, some kind of moral thing. And it was this character that was just like, off with you. And I based Sicko doing that with the viewers. So that was very intentional that I drew from Count Morbida doing that. What else? The show, Barry, Sid, and Marty Krofft. I grew up with that, so you'll see a lot of influences in the show with of Sid and Marty Krofft. So yeah, all this stuff just kind of merged.
Well, it's funny because you got your puppets and you've talked about Sid and Marty Krofft. I was this close to having a puppet on my show, but the problem is that I was going to get but I didn't know if I could even get it past people because it's going to make a puppet of Skeletor from He-Man. So they could just have this like sarcastic ass puppet next to me that look like Skeletor. I would never call him Skeletor because, you know, licensing. And
Yeah.
but I was going to do it. But the only problem is that the only other person I know that can do the Skeletor voice doesn't live around me anymore. So he would have to drive like an hour and a half to come film the episode of Skeletor and then go back. I was like, because if not, I'd be over here going, oh, because like you, I do everything by myself. Although people like, hey, you guys do a great job. I'm like, guys, I do a great job. All them names at the end of my episodes are fake. No.
How it goes.
Yeah, you got to have fun with it.
Yes, you have to really enjoy it.
Yeah, because it's funny because with all the other hosts I've talked to and whatnot, is, you know, you got to do it for the love because literally there's no money in it.
None.
No. And that's one thing I learned relatively quickly because I finally was able to get where I could be monetized. I got that magical numbers all across the board where everything was monetizable. And I did 2 episodes and YouTube went, you're no longer monetizable.
You know, they sent me a message too that I can't be monetized because I don't get enough hits.
No,
mine was monetizing at all. Like
mine was I used too many people's material without re-editing it, and it like gives me this list of that I either don't use it for educational purposes or don't alter it enough to make it my own. And I'm like, how much do you got to alter it to change it to make it your own? Because I mean, you know, but I'm like, you know what? I don't care. It all started out as a commercial for my shop because I found out commercials were expensive. So I figured let's do a free one on YouTube. And that's how, well, Saturday Morning Serial started out as something else. But I was like, you know what? I'll just do a little quick commercial for my shop at the beginning of each episode and usually at the end. And I'll just use that. And then, you know, my episodes kept getting longer and longer. And I would talk about the shop and whatnot. And now I have people calling me from, you know, or messaging me and they're like, hey, do you ship? Yeah, I ship, you know, or people have come into the store because they found me on YouTube. And I'm like, so it worked. It worked better than any other advertising I had ever done until this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the problems with YouTube, that's why I don't post full episodes on there. I just don't want to be bothered with any of that. So what I do is I post clips from the shows, from each one. And also guest appearances that I do on other shows. I'll put some of that in as well. But that's all I give YouTube of my soul, that clips.
I've been in talks. We'll see how it goes, but I might be able to take this show and get it put on one of the streaming channels for horror hosts, like a little, yeah. Because people go like, that's really interesting. A lot of the people like that. I'm like, maybe. I mean, you know, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I have fun doing it, and as I tell everybody, somebody goes, well, you know, do you know, you should stick with one genre, or you should do this, or you do that. I'm like, no, I just want to talk to people I find interesting, and and we'll go from there. If other people like it, cool. If they don't, I don't care. I'm having a good time. I'm interviewing people that I want to meet or talk to. You know, I joke around. I got to finally interview. I grew up on Glow Wrestling, and I got to talk to Hollywood from Glow. And we've got to do another part 2 because she's like, oh, I'll give you an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, you know, I got in there, I talked to her, and super nice, super, you know, and I told her, I was like, hey, I was like, I'm gonna tell you something. You're like my 3rd crush. It was like, you know, Princess Leia, Wonder Woman, Hollywood from Glow. And
Wow.
And she's like, oh my God, really? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I never got a chance to meet Carrie Fisher. I'll probably never get to meet Linda Carter. I was like, but I'm getting to talk to Hollywood from Glow. And she goes, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, you met Paul at that 12-year-old time where you're starting to really find, like, and I'm like, yeah, that's when um
I have to catch that interview.
yeah, what?
I'm gonna have to catch that
Yeah,
interview.
it's fun. We're planning a second part because I even told her, I was like, oh, we've been talking for like an hour and 10 minutes. And she's like, oh, I was like, you said you were gonna give me an hour. I was like, I don't want to take up any more time. She's like, oh, no, no, no. She goes, but I do got to go somewhere. I'm sorry. And we'll do it again. I'm like, okay, cool, cool. But I got to talk to her. I got to talk to some other people like other like local horror movie directors and horror hosts and stuff like that. And I think I've become friends with some of them too. I mean, yeah, we're doing it over the internet. I don't get to actually meet in person, but we message and stuff like that. And it's like, this is really cool. And now I'm meeting these really cool people and I'm becoming friends with them. And all because I decided to do this show. I decided to interview people I found fascinating. And I really liked horror hosts when I was a kid, and I thought, like I've told everybody, I was like, I thought they were gone. When I became an adult, they kind of disappeared. And yeah, and it's funny because that's what everybody says. They're like, all of a sudden, they're like, they found one locally or something like that, or they were at a convention, or they were here, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, there's still horror hosts. And that's what I did. I mean, I had refound Dr. Creep. And then I went to a horror movie convention, and literally there was just one room, and not like a little room, like a big room, and it was just horror hosts from all over. And I'm sitting there going, I saw you on, because this was the big one was what I saw was the next Elvira, when they did that whole thing, and I was like, you were just on the next Elvira, and then I got copies of their shows, and I watched them, and I'm like,
Monster?
huh?
The red hair, Miss Monster?
Yeah, I met
Miss yeah.
And that's like, what? And then I started like that one, and then I went to a few more, and I found this one over here. I found this person. Then they're like, oh, we're on YouTube, right? And I'm like, what? And so that's and I'm like, oh my God. And it's kind of cool because at my shop, I have my TV behind me at the cash register. And I try to keep it family friendly and stuff like that, unless somebody's not there and it's dead. And then I just watch whatever I want until I have to pause it because somebody keeps coming. But I watch horror hosts. I watch a lot of that because 90% of them are family friendly. The movies, because they're either on, public access, or they're on local channels and stuff like that. They're definitely not on anything where they can show like the blood and guts or anything like some of them. But yeah. I started showing those, and then I started having people come in and like, man, what's this? I'm like, you know what a horror host is? And I have to explain to these like 20-year-old kids what a horror host is. And they're like, that sounds fun. I was like, watch it. And then they're standing at the cash.
If you come up with a good answer, let me know. No. Oh yeah. Just watch.
Yeah. One of our local guys, I got a DVD off of him the other day, and it was Gargoyles, the 72 movie. And
yeah.
And my buddy's sitting there watching it. He goes, oh, I love this movie. And then the host came up and he's like, man, this is fun. It's like, he gives a little, it's like, yeah, it's like, that's what a horror host did. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah, this was on every Saturday. I was like, the best thing I can do is tell you to watch easy one to go watch Svengoolie on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock. I was like, it's the one everybody knows now. Even my mom knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, they're like, man, there's all these old horror movies on there. I'm like, that's the point. Watch them, enjoy them, listen to the information these guys bring you. watch them have fun when they're having fun. So yeah.
It's funny you were mentioning about some of the movies that are kind of safe to watch. Um, I'm Bobby the Monster. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't know.
One of the horror hosts. Okay, so he's a horror host, and we're working on a project together. So I'm going to guest star on his show, and he sent me the script, and I'm looking at it, and he goes, "We're going to show this movie," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not familiar with that movie. I haven't seen it." So I go on and I start watching it, and I'm like, "Whoa, this is freaking wild and perfect for my character to be on his show." I was like, "This is the craziest thing." But it was shot so nicely, and the lighting, and it has a major horror icon in it. But it's a roller coaster ride of a movie, and very extreme. um, yeah, and I'm hoping he doesn't cut it, but uh, it's going to be something. I'm really excited about it. But I'm like, Bobby Gamasso's going to show this. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So I don't know what's going on with that, but sometimes the movie themselves, maybe the hosts are extreme, but the movies are,
Yeah.
I actually do two versions. I do one that's safe for TV, and then I do one that's different for the streaming channel. So I keep all the good parts for the streaming channel.
Is there a movie that you would just like to air just because it's like bonkers crazy that you would love to do an episode with?
Dr. Caligari.
Oh,
I think it's from 1990 or 1989. It's a freaky film. It's Sid and Marty Krofft entering a psychedelic world of sex and violence. It is. Can I say this on here? They have
yeah,
talking. It has talking vaginas. Dr. Caligari has a daughter, and it's such a bad movie, but so bizarre and fun. It's just so out there. It goes further than Rocky Horror ever has, and it's truly bizarre. I definitely recommend. It's on YouTube, by the way.
God, I love those movies that are on YouTube.
Yeah, watch them before they snatch them down.
Yeah. Well, that's like I've legitimately had them snatch a movie down because I was watching it at the shop. I got about halfway done with it. I went home, did some stuff. I didn't get back to it. I was like, I'll finish watching that. I went to find it, and it was gone. I'm like, oh man. And then I found it. I'm like, oh, I ain't paying $3.99 to watch that. Because it wasn't streaming on any other channels. I'm like, what? Why'd you do that? Then there's stuff that's streaming on there that you're like, why hasn't this been taken down? This is like, I know Shout Factory has the rights to this. It's like, how is this on here? Like Damnation Alley and Titan Find, or The Creature, the Alien knockoff movie. And I'm like, those are.
Yes.
Yeah.
That should be public domain. Yeah. I love it when they take a movie that like Little Shop of Horrors and they force everyone to take it down, like you can't use that, somebody's claiming copyright, and then like, but you can watch it here for $3.99 on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I think Creature is public domain. That one.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know they just released like a Blu-ray special edition of it, and it's not under Creature, it's under Titan Find, which is the original title.
Well, maybe it depends on the print, which version of.
Yeah. That's if I were ever to host a horror movie that I could get away with, I don't even know if it's considered a horror movie because it's just a crazy movie. it would be either, well, it'd be under two movies. It would be The Visitor with Franco Nero and Shelley Winters, where he's basically space Jesus and he fights the little 8-year-old Antichrist, and Shelley Winters legitimately slaps the crap out of an 8-year-old.
Oh my God. Wow.
It's insane. And the other one is God Told Me To, the Larry Cohen movie.
Oh my God, yes. I was just watching a reaction video to that. I used to have it on VHS, and now I have it on DVD. But sometimes I love watching reaction videos, and I'm like, I got to see how this person reacts to this movie. And I still love that movie.
Yeah, I got it on Blu-ray over there. No, we did a horror movie festival. We used to do a horror movie thing at my shop at Halloween time. And 1 year I couldn't be there. I had to leave. Something like came up. My youngest son ended up getting sick or something. And so one of my older boys was running the thing for me. So I set up the movies. I'm like, just run this movie, run this movie, run this movie. And I'll be back. And it was The Beyond, a local horror movie called Kill That Bitch about a werewolf, Society, and then Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, okay. Cannibal Holocaust.
I came in as they were finishing up Cannibal Holocaust. And everybody's just sitting there going, what did you make us watch? They're like, you didn't put a palate cleanser in there at any point in time. I was like, no, I didn't put a palate cleanser in there. Kill That Bitch with your palate cleanser. They're like, I was not ready to watch that tonight. I'm like, I told you going in, you had to watch. You didn't have to watch anything. You could have left at any time. But they stayed there. All of them stayed there for all 4 of those movies. And yeah, to this day, I still have people going, I can't believe you made us watch Society. I'm like, I told you, I didn't make you watch anything. You guys stayed. You had every option to get up and walk out that door, but you stayed through the shunting. And they're like, you're right. I guess we did. I was like, there are certain movies, as my one friend used to tell me, that you should see at least once. And he before he passed away, he was always the one who would try to get me to watch a couple movies. And I'm like, nah, you ain't gonna make me watch it. He'd try to hide it. He'd go, hey, because I brought some movies for you, and check these out. And I'd like put them in. I'm like, no, you're trying to. I'm not watching that movie. See, there's one thing. I said no. I got up and walked away.
Now, do you have issues with extreme movies yourself, or?
There's a few movies that I like that would be considered extreme, but as I've gotten older, I've kind of gotten away from it. When I was younger, it was a thing of like, I don't know,
Slasher,
yeah. You could be like, yeah, I watch these movies. Now I'm like, nah, I don't watch, quote unquote torture porn. So I don't watch the Hostel movies. I don't watch any of that. I like my monster movies. I like the slasher movies. So I like the Jason, the Freddy's, the stuff like that. I like the Italian horror films. I like The Beyond. I like Zombie, stuff like that. But I don't have to, and some of them are gory and over the top. Like The Beyond is pretty gory and over the top, but
City of the Living Dead.
Yeah, City of the Living Dead. Yeah, I love City of the Living Dead. I remember my buddy in high school, and I had seen City of the Living Dead or Gates of Hell. I don't know how many times that, depending on what copy you got at the video store, whether it was Gates of Hell or it was City of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And his sister was sitting there watching it with us, and when the girl starts throwing her guts up, and she's literally like eating a piece of pizza. So she's watching this pizza, and all of a sudden she's like, and she like gets up and runs out. And she's like, "What are we watching? That's so gross." I'm like, "It's obviously fake. Jeez, it didn't even look like a human face." I was like, the one that bothers me is the guy's head in the drill press in that movie, where it starts cutting and you see his eye and everything off to the side. Zombie with the shard of wood, and you're just like, when's it gonna cut? When's it gonna cut? There it is.
They did something similar, Suspiria.
Oh yeah.
You were
yeah. I love Suspiria. That ironically enough, I used to watch that movie to go to sleep.
Wow, really?
I want to say it's the music. It was the music helped me sleep.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So I worked third shift, so I would come home at 7 a.m, and I had an old DVD of it, so the DVD wouldn't go to the menu. When the movie ended, it would just start the movie all over again. So I would pop that in my DVD player, and I would go to bed, and just the music would just help me sleep. And everybody's like, "You sleep through Suspiria?" I'm like, "No, I don't sleep through Suspiria. I sleep to Suspiria." And that, and I don't even know if I don't know if I got that one. The other one that I love the music to is Inferno. And that was the other one that used to help me sleep. That's basically the second movie in the Suspirium, the Three Mothers trilogy, as he calls it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched it, but I don't remember Inferno very.
Everybody remembers it because of the opening with the girl who loses her key into the puddle in the floor, and then she goes in, and then there ends up being an entire room underwater.
Maybe I haven't seen it.
Yeah. And she's swimming around. It's literally just this room, and it's full of water, and it's all supposed to just be a puddle. She drops her keys, and because I got the vinyl like immediately to my left over here, but that doesn't help because that's not the cover to the movie.
Well, I know what I'm going to be watching tonight. Inferno.
Oh, Inferno, yeah. Here you go. And this is another one that I love the music too. It's bad. I have all my boom.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I love this.
I saw that in theaters.
Oh man, I've got to see this in the theater, but I didn't get to see it the first time. But this is crazy because I said it's this crystal clear vinyl, and I've never had one look that clear. It's insane.
Wow.
I am a
very nice.
I tend to put these on when I edit my shows, and it just kind of helps me lose track of time while I'm editing. There's nothing more fun than click, drag, insert music, click, drag. But so I put that on, and while hour goes by, it feels like 20 minutes. So now I have no clue where we're at on questions.
Just make one up.
Okay. All right. You already said you've already been worked with other horror hosts. We've asked what you said you got started in 2016. Money's no object.
I gotta tell you though, working with other horror hosts is a lot of fun. I enjoyed the hell out of that. First of all, because I'm not responsible for the whole episode, they are, and I just really get to show up and be sicko, and then there's a bit of creativity too, because I have to figure out how my character will fits into that other horror host's world. And so it's kind of fun, like what's going to happen when these two characters meet. But as far as the whole episode is concerned, that's on them to edit all that. For the most part, yeah. So I love doing it.
Oh man, that's bad. Okay, I had the question there for a second, and now it's gone. It just went away. All right. Oh, do you do do you do any conventions or any the horror movie conventions or anything like that?
No. um, I live, well, I live in Vegas, and a lot of all the big ones seem to be over there on the East Coast or the Midwest. Honestly, I'm not really a big fan of conventions. Um, I had a bad experience that scarred me when I went as a fan, and I met one of my horror icons, and it they were just so greedy. They were trying to push me to buy. They held my credit card captive, trying to sell me merch, and I'm just like, and we were just numbers to them. Like it was like I was just, I did not want to be there, and I was like, they had my credit card, and they kept trying to swipe it, and thankfully the machine malfunctioned, and I was like, I have to go. Can I have my card back? And I was just so hurt. This was an idol I on my bucket list to me, and I'm not going to mention who it is, but the funny thing is Heather Langenkamp from Nightmare on Elm Street was just setting up her booth the next one over, and she was kind of watching what was going on and glancing, and when I got my credit card and I was walking away, I was like, I'm pretty much just ready to go shopping. I don't want to meet any more celebrities. But she came around the table, put her arm around me, had this big smile, was like, "Hi," and was talking to me, and I'm so scared to talk to her, and I'm all stiff and like, "Oh, please, I don't want another icon." Uh, my illusion of an icon to be ruined. I just went through this, and I was like, so I was really scared to talk to her. She's all like trying to make me feel better because she was actually watching what was going on. But she was wonderful, and I bought a few things from her. And there were some other celebrities on there that were just wonderful. They were like, "Hey, come over here and hang out and talk and have your picture taken." And but that one incident with that one icon scarred me, and I was just like, I'm good. I can see them on the screen. I don't have to meet them.
That's horrible. I've only had a couple bad experiences with like celebrities, and I hate to say this, but it's usually the B-level celebrity. Not the upper tier. It's the ones that you're just like, you're really not. One, I'll say it because I don't even know if he's still alive. Was the Don West from the original Lost in Space, and he wasn't even a jerk to me. He was a jerk to the woman in front of me. And he was so rude to her that I threw the picture back at the person and told him to give me my money back. I was like, nah, I'm good. I was like, dude, I told him, I was like, you were on a bad TV show in the 60s that people still love. And these people are your bread and butter, and that's how you're going to treat them. And he was just like, well, and the person standing next to him just kind of got her head down. And I was like, just here's your picture. Give me my money back. And they're like, well, we can. I was like, no, give me my money back. And this is because that's why they want cash. One is they don't have to claim it, but that got my cash back, and I walked away, and that was one of them. And Darth Vader, Dave Prowse, wasn't the nicest person in the world. And then I'm a big fan of the movie The Warriors. Warriors came out. And was it Cochise? I met him at a con, and literally I'm standing there, and my kids are like, "Hey, it's the Warriors," and I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Come on over, kids, man, I'll get you an autograph." Blah blah blah. And he starts signing an autograph, and I'm like, whoa, how much is that? And I was like, because I didn't tell you I wanted one yet. If you're going to give my kids an autograph out of the kindness of your heart, I'd appreciate it. I'd give them something. But you don't go ahead. And he's like, "Oh, it's $60." I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
nah, uh-uh. Well, it's a picture too. And I'm like, no, you don't do that to kids. I was like, nope, we're out. And I was like, because my kids at the time were, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, maybe. But I mean, they were old enough, but they were still really kind of new to the bigger conventions because they'd gone with me to those smaller conventions since they were little. And I don't even know if they were that old. Shoot, they might have been 8 and 10, maybe. Um, but yeah, I was like, no. Don't start signing an autograph to get me to pay you because you offered to do that. And that's why I told you to stop, And that was kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. Because maybe the next year or the same show, it was around the same time. We were at one and Kane Hodder was there.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey kids, I was like, Jason from Friday the 13th. And they're like, yeah. I was like, is he scary? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, that's him right there. And he overheard me talking to him and he's like, waving at him like, hi kids. And they went up, he signed autographs for him and pictures, just gave them to him. They still have them to this day. And I'm like, he didn't ask for a penny. I even looked at him. I was like, man, do I owe you anything? No, you're good. Your kids appreciate that. I'm like, all right, cool. Geez. It's bad because some of them that I feel bad because, like I said, some of them have passed away. I feel like I'm being a jerk, but I'm like, they were jerks when they were alive, so I don't feel too horribly.
Yeah. Actually, the celebrity that I was talking to you about, I had already purchased a bunch of merchandise from them and a picture of my picture taken with them. And then there was a young person that was with us, with my friends, and she didn't know who the celebrity was, but she was fascinated by the celebrity and wanted to meet them. And I'm like, sure, I'll buy you a picture and get your autograph and everything. So it it made it even worse that they were still trying to bleed me dry. I was like, I was just like, son of a bitch. I wish I had never met this person.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I've been doing the convention circuit since I was in high school. And I remember when you went to conventions, autographs were free. And when I first started, you just stood in line. That was because getting into the convention, and then you stood in line. If you stood in line, you could get lucky, you got an autograph. And pretty much everybody blames Dave Prowse, the guy that played Darth Vader. He was the first one to start charging autographs. I was at a big convention years ago, and literally they had some horror movie people there, but it was 99% sci-fi comic book related. So nobody was there for the horror people at all. So these people were just sitting there like, literally like, twiddling their thumbs. And I walked up and one was Doug Bradley from Pinhead. And I was like, hey, and he's like, I'm supposed to charge you to sign this. And he goes, but I don't care. He signs it. He signs a couple things and hands them to me. And he goes, there's nobody around. He goes, I can't charge you while I'm sitting here doing nothing.
Oh,
And
oh.
Gunnar Hansen was the same way because it was Gunnar Hansen, it was Doug Bradley. I can't remember who else it was, but the big thing was Clive Barker was there, and he was like one of the big ones, but he was off into like a whole nother room. And I ended up talking to him for like 10 minutes and just walking through. That was before the security would keep the big name guests away from the poor little people that were there to visit them. Um, but those days are long gone. I joke around as like I don't have hardly any fun going to big conventions now. I go to little local ones. I went to Horror Hound because I want to meet Adam Green, the guy that did Hatchet and all that stuff. He signed free 100%. He says he will never charge to sign an autograph. And so I'm like, all right. And ironically enough, we have a mutual friend. And I went up there and I was like, I figured he'd sign like one thing. And so I had my wife with another thing because she was standing behind me. I was like, I might as well get 2 things signed. And he was sitting here like he had a whole conversation. We talked about our mutual friend. We talked about life a little bit, and he signed everything. And he goes, is this yours? And she goes, well, she goes, it's his. And he goes, okay, cool. He signed that. He signed like 4 things, never questioned anything about it. I'm like, you know, that's cool. But you know, then you got the one sitting, you know, across the room. I'm going to sound kind of jerkish on this one. I'm a wrestling guy. I like wrestling. I've watched wrestling since I was a little kid. We had a local, not here in town, but a little further south, wrestling, and it had a lot of big name people either came from there or wrestled there. And one of the big name people, I've met him, like I don't know how many times at this little peon wrestling organization, and I went to go talk to her, and I walk over and it's like $80 for an autograph and a picture, and I'm like, nah. I met you when your autograph was free.
Wow.
It's I want to say it's all become a money grab because it's already too expensive to get in. It's expensive to park some places. Then, you know, to eat there or whatever, you got travel and food. Then you go inside, then everybody wants to gouge you on autographs and stuff like that. I'm, like I said, being a big comic book guy, used to always go, and all the comic book artists and writers would sign. They just, you know, they'll go, oh, throw a donation in the bin, and you know, that'll go towards the Hero Initiative or whatever. I never had a problem. I'd always throw a couple bucks in. Never had any issue. Okay, I'll sign 10 books. Okay, I'll take 10 books up, whatever. Then a few years ago, a bunch of them started signing and they started charging, but they didn't have any notification on their table that they were signing, that charging. So you'd go up there and they'd sign. They're like, "Oh, that's $10," and you're like, "Oh, okay." If I knew you were signing, charging, I would have never got this signed. You know, this book is never going to be worth more than cover price, but now you signed it. Now it's still going to be worth cover price. And I get it, but I've promoted conventions before. These guys got to get paid to get there. And most of them make money while they're there doing, especially the artists doing commissions. And I understand at a certain point, okay, say I'll sign 3 books. You got a limit? No problem. Say you sign 1 book. No problem. It's when a guy, I do, like I said, I'm gonna sound like a jerk, but when you got guys whose artwork or books that they've done work for will never be worth more than a dollar bin book, and then they want $20 for an autograph, and you're just like, that's never going to be worth $20, you know? And yeah, they're like, well, you get to meet me. I met you 5 years ago when you were free, or when you it just sucked a lot of the fun out. And like I said, I went to Horror Hound for the first time in 10 years recently, and I went there to shop. I went there and I was like, all right, you know, I'll get an autograph if I get a couple cheap ones. I met Mark DeCasas, and I paid for that one because it was somebody I wanted to meet. I had to tell him a story about my, you know, and he thought it was hilarious. But I think it was $60 for an autograph and a picture. I was like, it's not horrible, but you know. But then you look at these other guys, and it's like, oh, it's the guy that played Zombie number 2 on Walking Dead. $80 for an autograph, $80 for a picture, $150 for the combo. No.
Yeah, I'm not easily starstruck anymore. I'm good. I'm like, you know, I'll enjoy your work, but when you really like someone's work, and that illusion gets shattered when you meet them, you find out who they really are in person. It's I don't want to go through that. I don't know. I'm good with my fiction.
the person in your head, you don't want them to be, you know, like I said, I have a friend, and he's works in trying to remember what he's called. He buys movies for a movie company to release, and he got to meet Kurt Russell, and I grew up with Kurt Russell. You know, Escape from New York, The Thing, you know, all the Disney movies he did when I, you know, watched those, and he shows a picture of him with Kurt Russell, and I was like, hey man, I was like, can you tell me? I was like, I gotta know, is Kurt Russell cool? And he's like, I was like, because he was not cool, that will like hurt me inside to find out Kurt Russell's a jerk, you know? And he's like, no, he goes, you know, yeah, he goes, you know, maybe politics aside, we don't agree on the same politics or whatever. He goes, but as a person, one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And he goes, you know, I'm like, oh, good. I don't want there's literally like 3 people that if I found out they were jerks, it would hurt me like deep inside as a person. And he was one of them. And I mean, the other one would be Mark Hamill, but Mark Hamill seems to be cool because he, you know, he does all this really, you know, goes and visits sick kids and stuff like that. But you know, it's like, man, just don't be an asshole. Don't be.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is I've noticed this. It seems like the bigger they are a jerk, sometimes the more people want to meet them and will pay more to meet them. It feels like it's like, why, you know? But
think about that one. That you might have a point there, but then you have more experience than I do actually meeting people. So that's pretty interesting. I'm gonna be thinking about that now.
and here's another thing. I've also noticed that usually the villains tend to be nice people. The people
Yes.
that are the heroes tend to be jerks. Yeah, but relatively, I wouldn't say recently, but I've met some of the ones that played heroes that were really, really nice. And surprisingly enough, one of the nicest people I've met recently. Did you watch Gotham?
Yes, I watched the first season and part of the second season.
The kid that played Bruce Wayne.
Okay, yeah.
We were at a comic book convention in Cincinnati, and my buddy's sitting there. He wanted to meet John Barrowman from Doctor Who and Arrow. He wanted to meet him really bad. I'm like, okay. We got there. We walked in. The convention had only been open for like a half hour. We get to his area, and they're all like, "Oh, line's cut off for today." And we're like, "It's not even 11 o'clock. It only opened at 10. Will you tell me that the autograph line's already cut off?" And they're like, "Well, he's going to be taking pictures, and then he might come back later." And I'm like, "So we're supposed to stand in line all day and hope that he comes back?" And this is the whole reason my buddy went. And his whole corral is right there, and the kid that plays Bruce Wayne is right here. And we're standing there, and he's all kind of he's down. He's like, man, that's the whole reason I came here. And I was like, well, it isn't. I was like, you wanted to meet the guy who played Professor Zoom over yeah. I can't remember. It's like Teddy something. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? Yeah. And I was like, well, he's right there. I was like, why don't you? Because he didn't have a big line or nothing. I was like, just go, see if he's. And pretty soon we're sitting there talking, and the guy goes, hey, he goes, the kid's like, hey, he goes, hey, Batman, like just like kind of like, excuse me. He's like, I was like, yeah, we started talking just like while we were standing there, and he's like, yeah, he goes, man, I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's kind of nice talking to adults. He goes, all I've been doing is talking to kids all day. And I'm like, because this kid's, I don't know, maybe, I think he was like 17 at the time. And I was like, yeah, I was like, my wife had watched him on the show that he did before that, which he did as an autistic kid, with a kid with autism on a show with like Kiefer Sutherland. And my wife started watching it. I was like, man, my wife loved you on that show. I was like, you do a great job. It's my son has autism. I was like, it kind of, you could see you. I was like, did you know somebody? Did you study? And we just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. And he's just like, thank you guys for the conversation. And we're like, thank you for talking to us. He didn't have, but his kid took time out just to hang out and talk to two guys that were standing there upset because one guy didn't mean to get to meet somebody else. And I hope, I hope that kid stayed that way. I mean, because I don't know if he's done much since Gotham ended, but I hope he kind of stayed, kind of just that person, I guess, because some of the guys get big heads. They get a little bit of attention and suddenly they're,
Yeah. I don't know. I have a feeling he's probably still grounded.
Yeah. It's nice meeting the grounded people. Some of them, not so much.
Yeah. So now, the only thing I've done where I appeared as Sicko-Psychotic myself is, and only because nobody would know who I was, was I had most of the cast on Halloween at a public library. We put up a booth where kids were going to go march all over the different departments and trick or treat. And so we set up a booth and we're passing out candies and they didn't know who we were, which was it was fine with me. And probably because it was it was so stress free and it was for a good cause and for the kids in the neighborhood and that I enjoyed doing that. But I don't know. I've never really had an interest to do conventions and meet people. It just seems like a lot of work. And to think that I would be probably doing it, most of it myself, to set up and I don't know. Maybe if it was for a good cause, if there was a charity involved, I might do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I got asked to do a convention recently. And I was like, I have nothing. I have no merch to sell. I was like, I guess I could come and like host a panel or something like that, or maybe even do this there. But I was like, I don't know what I wouldn't be able to make any money while I was there. And it's not cheap to drive any distance anymore. So, and
you're really close too compared to me.
Yeah. And the worst part about it is the one I got invited to wasn't even close to here. So
Oh wow. Yeah.
If I could con some of my friends in that do the local ones, I'd be like, hey, I could show up and talk to some comic book guys and stuff like that for you. And now I could probably do one, but literally I also don't want to tie up that amount of time. That's usually 3 days on some of the big conventions. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and usually I got one day where I can do something, and that's usually Sunday. So I go in, do my convention, get my stuff I want to buy, and get out. I'm a man on a mission.
I hear that. I'm going to shift a little bit just to get comfortable here.
Yeah. That's what I had to do recently. My chair the chair that I normally sit in is literally like a broken kitchen chair that I just find comfortable to type on, but it's hard wood. So I'm like, man, I need a cushion. And I had a cushion that didn't work, and I looked around. I'm like, all right. So what I did was I grabbed a Star Wars blanket.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that'll work.
That's an original. That's from 1978.
I remember that blanket. Yeah.
Somebody goes, well, where do you keep it? Because I told them, I was like, man, I still got like my blankets from when I was a kid. And they're like, really? I was like, what do you use them? I'm like, I don't know. When I'm crashing out on the couch, I'll throw it over me and sleep.
Wow.
I was like, it's all worn out, and it did have like that silk trim at the top. That's long gone, but I still have it. I got another one somewhere. It's got a hole in it. It needs sewed. I think it's the Empire Strikes Back one. But I'm a avid collector, as if you probably couldn't tell with the stuff back here and the comic boxes and the. But
I used to collect them when I was a kid, all the Star Wars. I think out of all my friends, I had the largest collection. And I did have the Millennium Falcon.
I did not have the Millennium Falcon as a kid. I got it much later in life. There's a couple things that I always wanted as a kid that now as an adult, I own them because I wanted them, and the adult Paul now can afford them. I have 3 Star Wars AT-ATs over there, and that is the original
Wow.
80s one, the remake in the 90s, and the big one from the 2000s.
Wow. I had a friend that had the AT-AT, and I had the Millennium Falcon, so we were able to play out that scene. But the only reason I got the Millennium Falcon was because my mom was dating somebody, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna work this. And I'm a little kid. I'm like, so he takes me to a toy store. Like, what do you want? I'm like, the Millennium Falcon, $50, and it doesn't come with action figures. It's like, well, that's what I want. We can always go home, like, So I was kind of a manipulator, and he ended up buying me the Millennium Falcon and complaining about that for quite a while.
I didn't do it like that. I did it because my parents got divorced, and I did the.
Oh wow, your own parents.
The year laser tag came out, my parents couldn't afford laser tag, neither one of them. But I got that offshoot laser tag, like Photon or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But I got it. Yeah, it's now my kids are like, Dad, I want that. All right.
Yeah, but we know all the tricks now, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the worst part about it is that I only have one son. My youngest son is getting ready to turn 12. My oldest son is 30, 25, and 22. And I still buy my kids toys. Except for the 30-year-old. The 30-year-old doesn't really collect much of anything. But my 22-year-old son works at my shop. So like anytime I find toys, I'm like, hey, I got you a Scareglow Skeletor or Scareglow from He-Man. Sweet. So he's got well, we were at a convention once, and we're set up. The guy had the Mandalorian figure, like the really high-end Japanese imported one, and the little baby, what was the child then before it was Grogu, but it had that, and he's like, man, I really want that. So he's like, I was like, really, how bad you want that? And he's like, I don't know. He was getting ready to call his older brother to loan him the money. And I just looked at him. I was like, I'd been having a good day. The show was doing really well. I was making money. And I was like, hey, run up there and see if that guy's got, I don't know what book I was looking for. And he goes, okay. And while I'm sitting there, I looked at the guy next to me. I was like, how much for the 2 of those? And he goes, 150. And I was like, I'll give you 125. And he goes, okay. And I put him in a box. And I put him behind the counter. And we were sitting there pretty soon. He comes up to me and goes, oh, man, somebody bought those. And I'm like, really? I was like, go open that box that I got sitting right there. And he opens it up. And he's like, he's like, what? I'm like, what? Are you going to say anything? He's like, you bought them for me. And I was like, well, you've been helping out all day. I was like, don't get me wrong. I was like, that's what you got paid for today for helping me. Because normally I give him like $50 to come help me at a show. And I was like, dude, that's $125 So I was like, I ain't paying you for the show today. Oh, okay, okay, okay. I'm like, all right. Um, the other day he was bugging me because we were on Mondo's site and they offered this. The Godzilla versus wait a minute, let's see. There we go. The Godzilla versus Destroya soundtrack. And
wow.
I was like, it was 2 different versions. So it had like an atomic fire blue and another color one. And I was like, it was limit 1 per customer. I was like, oh, I'll get 1 of each color, 1 for me, 1 for him. And I ordered it and it's like, you got your 1. I'm like, I can't order 2. So literally I had to call my buddy up who had an account with Mondo, tell him to order 1 for me so that I can get him a copy of it. And now he's got a copy and I have a copy. So go through a lot of effort for my kid. So
Yes, you do. What is this website? Mondo? What?
yeah, Mondo. They do prints and vinyl and some comic books. Let's see. I got that one. My buddy got me that one for Christmas. That's the Return to Godzilla or Godzilla 1985.
Yeah.
I have the Halloween and Halloween Kills soundtrack. But I think that might be all I have from Mondo, right? I've got no. They do some synthwave stuff too, but I order vinyl, and most of my vinyl albums are either synthwave or movie soundtracks. So, as I call it, it's editing music. I just turn it on and listen and listen. So, all right. Let's see. We got where you came, where your character came from. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So, how much of your character is actually you?
He's really exaggeration of me. There's a little bit of me in there, but he's really exaggerating. I mean, he's a nasty character. He's I'm probably a lot more polite. But I mean, he's a ghoul. He eats people. I haven't gone there yet. The thing about playing this character, I have to say, is where I would never do some of the things Sicko would do, but because I play Sicko, I feel I don't think about it. I'm more just liberated, like I'm just Sicko. It's not me doing it. So I find myself doing some things that I never do as myself. So it's quite liberating and therapeutic playing a psychotic ghoul.
It's funny with that one. It's there's always that little bit of yourself that is in there, and it goes back to a wrestling buddy of mine, and I've talked this with other hosts. Is like, is your character you but cranked all the way up to 11? And everybody's like, yeah, yep. I can see that.
Yeah.
Although I've one host I met, I think is his character, turned down is his character, turned up is him normally.
Wow. Who is this?
Carlos Borloff. We did an interview and he's going 100-mile-an-hour through the entire. I think I might have said 10 things through the entire episode, but you literally when I did my interview, I hung on and he was gone. And yeah, he was going through like his warehouse and showing everything he had, all the people he had met, his awards.
I watched that video.
Yeah,
I watched that. That house is amazing. So you think he actually turns it down when he plays? Really?
I've watched his show. I mean, his show, he's not that like, I'm like, I mean, he seems like a really cool guy. I'd love to like meet him. But yeah, he's
Same person, on and off character.
yeah. He either is just that way 100 mile an hour every moment of every day, or like I said, his character on the show is just kind of turned down version of himself, because he's, the monster, he's got the heavy metal guy with all the makeup and stuff like that, and so he's got to be like a little slower, but
He also tries to play it towards kids too.
yeah.
From what I've seen, yeah. Oh, sometimes. I've also seen some other episodes.
Yeah. And you're just like, whew. And it's funny because I talked to Sally, and Sally had worked with him before, and Sally's like, yeah, you just hang on, she goes, he's just, you just he will go, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, literally, I started the conversation, then I just hang on for dear life as he just continued to go. I'm like, all right, okay, yes, all right, sweet. But it's fun because with horror hosts, and I know this is bad, but wrestlers, I've interviewed both, and you guys are so close to way you guys do things, because I always joke around, you have your work, which is your work, and your shoot is your normal everyday life. Your work is your character that you create, that is who you are in, like for wrestlers, it's in the ring. For horror hosts, it's on stage, or behind the camera, or in front of the camera, not behind the camera. And it's just weird that I've been able to and then I find out a lot of them liked wrestling at one point, and I'm like, oh, okay, that explains a little bit. Yeah.
It was hard not to if you grew up in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
But you're right. A lot of horror hosts actually have were wrestlers themselves. In connection with wrestling before they became horror hosts. So yeah.
Yep. So
I do. I just watched it. That was it.
I watched it as a kid. I still watch it I watch a little bit of it today. But I end up becoming friends with a lot of wrestlers as I've gotten older. And I had one friend who used to always try to con me, man, you need to be a wrestler. Like, no, man, I got a job. I got to go to work every day. I was like, I can't break an ankle in a wrestling match and then have to be like, I got to go to work, and I can't work because I was playing wrestler all weekend. He's like, no. He goes, no, it doesn't happen. I'm like, dude, I've been there and watched people break their ankle live while we were. He's like, it's not fun. So, oh, really? Go lay down. She's deciding she's about ready to go outside. Last question, I guess. Where can people find you, like on the net, on your channel, your stuff like that?
So I have a blog, Sicko-Psychotic blog. So I try to keep it updated, but it doesn't always happen. But yeah, you can find information about the show on there. It airs on the Monster Channel, so keep your eyes out for that. I'm on YouTube at clips, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram too, but I never go on there. So Facebook is probably a good bet to find out the latest thing, the most updated information.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you coming on here, sir. I do. I think we had a good time. And even though we got way off track, I needed my wife. My wife was the one. When we did our old podcast, she'd always be like, "And you're way off topic." So go back, circle back around, circle back. And now I don't have her sitting over here because I filmed this late. She's in bed because she's got to get up and go to work early in the morning, and I don't. And so now I don't have that little voice over here telling me that circle back around, get back on topic, get on back on topic. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I will put. Yep. I'll put some of your information here at the end and all that fun stuff. And maybe sometime we can have you back on again, or work to do something together, or maybe we can have have you pop up on my show or something. Record a little bit like, what are you kids doing? Why are you watching cartoon? Yeah. Take care, sir. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
You too. We'd like to thank Jim for showing up and being on the podcast tonight. Had a fun time. Way off topic a lot of the time, but what do you expect out of me? All right. As always, Group Therapy TV is brought to you by Are You Game, the best comic book collectible, magic, toy, DVD shop located at 124 North Sunset Drive, Pickle, Ohio, 45356. You can find us at Are You Game on Facebook. Along with, you can find Group Therapy TV, Saturday Morning Serials on Facebook too. You can see me every Friday, Saturday, and Monday at 8 p.m. on Sci Fridays, Saturday morning for Saturday Morning Serials, and Group Therapy TV every Monday at 12 noon, all at Eastern Standard Time. So as always, I want you all to have a good day. Take care. I'll see you there. And good day, good night, and a good morrow. Later.